All right, Showtime logo. This is my commentary for episode 2 of Dexter Original Sin. So yeah, again, oops, sorry, got some hair stuck on my mic. So I'm watching the previews right now. As I said before, I always watch a movie or show, and I do the commentary, commenting as I watch the entire episode. So for those who have the attention span, uh, so what I have to drink tonight, right now, is a Sprite. Yep, I'm drinking Sprite out of a wine glass. It's the only drink that I had close by, and the rule is that I use this wine glass for like everything, every time for almost every commentary. So yeah, I haven't used it lately, so I need to, you know, and Sprite was the closest thing. Kid in a candy store. And here's the Patty, twirling around in the chair, dedicating himself as Dexter. I wonder where she got her name Crazy Tanya from. Maybe because of her inappropriate commenting. But you know, back in the '90s, that's how it be. I was supposed to do some research. I actually did research on this episode, and or actually did some notes on this episode. And silly me, I forgot to do the research on all the notes that I typed. So this thing that Crazy Tanya just gave Dexter, that is a pager. That's a thing that we had back in the day before phones, or for cell phones, I should say. Whenever there was an emergency or we needed to get a hold of somebody, then or our job needed to get a hold of us, boom, sent us a little message to the pager. Yeah, and that's how it was. Now, I was supposed to do a lot of research on the stuff in the back Dextering, but didn't do it. Yeah, you look at that. He has a little head bob that Dexter does, and the tense little, tense body language. You're not even a number yet. It's Masuka putting him in his place. I guess it's okay. I guess it's all right. I didn't do too much research on the background things of the show and everything. Only because it's nice to watch the show, to watch something as a fan. So, but now here we are with the opening credits. But it's nice to watch something as a fan, instead of going too deep into things for once. So, you know, Christian Slater, Maui Brown. You know what's weird is the letter L apparently is missing in like certain languages or alphabets. Like certain languages just don't even pronounce the L at all. it's, it's from what I heard. So you know what? I actually want to hear this intro. When this comes out on DVD, if it comes out on DVD, I definitely want to listen to this on a subwoofer. I heard when I did my research on the original Dexter, and I did all my videos for those. The sound quality was very odd up until like season 6, I believe. And then seven was good, and then season 8 I had on Blu-ray, so the sound quality was completely different. So I listened to the intro to Dexter on Blu-ray on a soundbar with a subwoofer, and it was like it was one of the most beautiful, like I guess ASMR sounds I've ever heard. it was yeah. So I can't wait to listen to original sin on the soundbar. All right, now we have all the cops, the boys standing around Harry. you know, I miss hanging out with the guys. I miss hanging out with my group of friends. It was a good time. And people making fun of each other. Well, it's better when everyone's like on board with making fun of each other. It's not just let's make fun of this one person. Now here we are in the 70s, I think, or 80s. I like how this show was actually telling different stories of different timelines, which is the Harry timeline and the current timeline, which I guess is 20 years later, about 20 years later. Yeah, so the whole thing about so Harry and his what do you call it, his sucker or whatever. Yeah, a lot of times when people would smoke and they would have to get over smoking, there was like a thing called the oral fixation or something like that, and just playing around with things in someone's mouth kind of helped out with certain oral habits or like smoking. I've talked to some people I know. They went to eating candy, um, yeah, sucking on lollipops, and some people have just done things to keep their mouth busy, chewing gum. Um, Resident Evil 4, the GameCube version, there was one of the drivers who was like, "Hey, you got to smoke or you want to smoke?" And Leon is like, "Got gum." He's kind of like a short version of, "I used to smoke, but I stopped, and now I chew gum." Or Fast and the Furious, Han, he's always snacking on foods. Sorry, one second. All right. Sorry, I should have gotten comfortable earlier before I started this. All right, so Dexter's at his first crime scene. Oh, he doesn't have his laminate yet. Um, so here's the thing about this scene. So Dexter, his very first crime scene, and he sits here and looks at the body, and he's just a little bow on top. Yeah, this is season one Dexter when he was more, crazy. He was in his imagination. Anyway, so the issue that I have, I guess you can call it an issue about season two or episode two of Original Sin, was in season seven of Dexter. He said that his first crime scene. Oh, was she gonna say her line? Tiny but mighty. Anyway, in season seven, Dexter mentioned that his first crime scene was that a wife murdered her husband, and that there was a sandwich next to his body. And Dexter could only think, it's a shame no one's going to eat that sandwich. And those were his thoughts during his first crime scene. Now, I guess that he could have been joking around with Hannah, when he said that. But yeah, in the show, they've retconned a different first crime scene. So if you look in the background, also in that scene, there's a mural that's painted. That mural was actually painted by the behind the scenes. members, art department, I believe, of the show, painted the mural, and I believe they left it up even after they did all the filming and everything. And I gotta do something to make these more entertaining, more explosive. Because me, I'm watching it. So as I'm watching the show, I got my brain is occupied with watching and just talking on autopilot. So I don't know if there's any suggestions. I guess maybe someone can tell me. I've thought about getting music and playing it in the background, but um, the recordings I do vary from 40 minutes. I guess for now, 40 minutes to sometimes 2 hours. So it's like trying to find a musical track to do that to cover. Plus, also, well, yeah, yeah. Also, there's different versions where I well, actually, what I'm watching, I'll dub my recording over what I'm watching, and I'll post it not on YouTube because of copyrights and stuff, but on my other, platforms and subscriptions and stuff. I'll have that. And if I do add a slight audio, then I don't want that to interfere with you know, I don't want the audios to interfere with each other between the show and the music and me talking. It might be too much. So now here's Sarah Michelle Gellar doing her job, analyzing the blood and talking with Dexter. And yeah, I like this because Dexter finally gets excited. He's like, yo, look at this. Yeah, the killer was standing right here. Yeah, it's like the crime scene's talking to him. This is one of the first times we see one of Dexter's superpowers, one of his gifts. Definitely has some superpowers going on, especially in like the later seasons. As I watched them, there were some scenes where Dexter was doing some weird stuff. And I'm just like, wait a minute, how is he getting away with that? Like, or like when he openly got on a phone call that was recorded by police and like openly admitted to like murder, and it's like, okay, I guess we're just gonna let that slide. Oh, so poor Dexter. He's like the new kid in town. He's like the new guy. And everyone's over here poking at him. The victim was standing right here. Hey, yo, take a look at that. Get a load of this, guys. And I mentioned this in the first episode how Dexter not being so connected with everything, he doesn't get hurt that easy or defend or offended that easy. So everyone's having their fun, and Dexter's like, oh, okay. And just kind of moving on. That's one of the gifts he has, is not feeling sad or upset when someone's, you know, uh, uh, making fun of him or whatever. I wonder if my microphone will pick this up. I don't know if it picked that up or not. The bubbles in my Sprite. Oh, I wonder where Christian Slater got the motivation for Harry from. Like, I would love to meet him and ask him that. Like, hey, what was your motivation for her? Yeah. Anyway, okay, so right here, this scene, we have the van. I want to say that's a Winnebago, but I know it's not. It's right here. Harry asks, "Are you Joe? I need some that good Colombian stuff." That man right here with the brown pants, who's making a deal with Harry right now. That's actually Joe Driscoll. That is Dexter's biological dad. So this is like the small little, this is the small piece of Joe that we get alive, other than the tattoos that Dexter saw on him. He was a baby having flashes. Yeah, that's interesting to know that this guy right here that they arrested is is yeah, Dexter's bio dad. Laura Moser. I believe she was a Cancer. I missed her birthday. Let me see if I wrote it in the notes. Of course I didn't. Uh, these are some also awful notes that I wrote down. These are all things that I memorized. Oh well. But yeah, it was crazy to see when Laura Moses' birthday was. I believe she was born in June, so she was a Cancer, like my favorite sign. I think they're my favorite sign because they're the sign that I get a dose. um, yeah, Cancer is just as I get along with them. And here's Dexter sitting down, and here's our boy, Dexter's brother Brian. At least you know what? At least, uh, yeah. So it's crazy. Dexter just met his whole brother just now and didn't even know that was him. I don't want to. Anyway, man, this is a beautiful place. I'm just looking at the background, with the ocean, and just sitting here eating a sandwich, looking out at the ocean. No, it took the meat out of his sandwich. And again, if this is someone's first commentary with me, sorry for me clearing my throat so much. I just got over the flu, so still my throat's still bothering me a little bit, little bit. Uh oh, drum roll. What's going on? Oh, he got his new laminate. Dexter Morgan forensics. During this scene, I remember Patty had some. Patrick Dempsey had some interesting scenes, had some hard scenes to do. But in this scene, I remember. In this scene, I remember. I think there was a bag or a can. I think it was a bag that was next to him. So every time they had to do the shots, he kept biting into the bread, and then they had to reshoot. He would get more bread, and right next to him, he would have to, throw away the old bread that he wasn't using, that he couldn't use for the reshoots and everything. And yes, I believe that. Yes, I believe this was that scene. Oh, useless information, I guess. And then this kid, yeah, it was just this random kid, and it's like, he just gives him the light. Sunny smiles. So this weird lunchable that he gave this kid, Sunny Smiles. From what I remember, I could be wrong, but I believe Sunny Smiles was the name of the weather reporter that was in the fourth season of Dexter. And then Dexter told Deb and LaGuerta that there was this dude out there named Sunny Smiles, and and he had to go out there for a forensics conference, just that he can be with Trinity and everything and do his thing. But I remember the weather dude was named Sunny Smiles. Um, Homicide looks good on you. I believe that was his name, Sunny Smiles. I don't want to. Yeah, I bet Dad was a good cook. I definitely would have dated Dad back in the day. my when me and my homies, the brothers, we were all watching Original Sin together. They were saying that Deb in Original Sin is just too intense, and he's like, "Nah, she's a bit too much." I'm just like, I prefer this Deb over the original Deb. Yeah, if I was in high school, I definitely would have. Yeah, but anyway, I like this Deb. She's cool. It truly encapsulates what Deb is about. One of the most challenging things I think, maybe as a writer, but when you watch characters like Deb and what they go through so much hardships, and there's so much to connect to. With certain people can connect to characters like that, like her, and can help understand why they're feeling the way that they feel when there's so much going on inside of them, and hopefully find some kind of resolve or whatever. But then you have regular people who don't understand what these characters are going through, and they're just like, this character's so annoying. Oh, I hate this character. This character, blah blah blah. And it's like, as a writer, you write this character, and you write all these characters' flaws because he's tofu. It's sorry. Oh, put hot sauce on dog poop, it still tastes like poop. Poor Deb, she's so underappreciated. She made some shish kebabs for them. He's like, "What's a kebab?" Like tofu. He's like, "What is tofu? It's soy. What is soy?" Oh, but anyway, yeah. But so as a writer, when you write characters like this, it's like, well, you understand what the character's going through. You understand what they have to offer, and you understand why they're doing what they do. And a lot of times, audience members, they see these characters and they're just like, "Oh, they're so annoying." It's like, well, they're going through something. They're adding depth to what the story is about. People seem to not get that. So I don't know if it's harder for an audience member or as a writer or a director making characters like this. And then here's Dexter with his trophies. So one thing I did notice about this scene is they were careful about showing Dexter's side. When he had his shirt off during this scene, he's looking at his earrings. I was like, I kept trying to look at his shirt because, or his side, because Dexter fell on a on a fence and cut himself, and he has that huge scar on the side of his side of his abdomen. So I was wondering if they remembered that. So every time, so when I see the scene, I try to look carefully to see if I see that scar, and they were good to cover it up in this episode. Of course. Up and there's our boy Joe Driscoll, the Afro. Mm. And here's Laura Moser. I really wish I could talk to these actors and just ask them about where or how they found their motivation for these characters and what their point of view was. Something interesting that I think more people should do is watch a show, but like watch the show from the perspective of different characters, and like don't watch the entire episode or watch the whole thing just to get a hold of the entire story. Just like watch only the scenes of certain characters and just like watch what the show is like from that character's perspective. I think more people should do that. Be like, huh, if you ignore the entire story of the show and then you just stick to one character story arc, how does that actually change what it is you're watching? How does it change what the series or the season is even about? You know what I mean? I think more people should do that. Heck, maybe I should do that with Heroes. I should just stick to one character, and be like, okay, I'm gonna watch every scene with this one character, and just we're gonna talk about their story arc and what they went through and how they evolved in their own personal journey that we didn't notice because there was so much going on in the bigger story that we just didn't see it. And oh, here's Harry talking. Yeah, I thought it was interesting with having Harry talk, show his detective skills and get to Lord Moser's weakness and be like, "Oh, you got boys, boom, weakness," and gets her to react. And once she reacts, he knows he's got her, and now he wants to use her as an informant. Like I like seeing the baby steps of how we got there. So I remember in the first season or the second season, maybe the first season, they talked about this. They kind of glanced over it, so it's nice to actually physically see the baby steps of how we got there. Now here's Harry trying to be a dad to his daughter, trying to be a disconnected male, having to deal with an emotional daughter and doesn't really know how to connect. That's always rough. Sometimes when we have to be a leader or captain to somebody, to a village, and we're so disconnected to parts of ourselves that when we start to lead the tribe, we don't know how to feed the parts. We don't know how to feed every part of the tribe because parts that we are unable to accept within ourselves are parts that we cannot feed those who are below us on the chain. You know what I mean? That's always rough. Whether you're a boss, you're a leader at a job, if you're a parent in a household, if there are certain things that the parent is disconnected from, then the other people in the household, those areas that the parent is devoid of, is voided of, it's going to end up being threatened. But everyone else in the household, they're going to be threatened in those areas. So poor Harry, he's very disconnected from his emotions. So when it comes to trying to connect with Deb, he doesn't really know how to. Until he finds it within himself, he can't offer it. Here's Masuka being wildly inappropriate. I like Crazy Tanya. She's like teaching Dexter the basics on how to like kill people. She doesn't even know it. She's like creating the perfect serial killer. She's like creating the very thing that she's trying to stop in the world. And that's the weird irony of Tanya's character is her personal character, personal self, is creating a thing that her professional self is trying to stop. Look a funny irony there. Wonder what time. Oops. Wonder what time it is. And no, I don't think I'll get any sweet tea tonight. I know sugar, right? I'm just a tea drinker. Like I said, if I had a bottle of water, that water would have been in this wine glass right now. But the bottles of water that I have in here, I was drinking out of when I was sick. So I don't want to do all that. Yeah, so this thing, yeah, they had to have little pictures, and you needed a microscope to originally see cases back in the day because there was too many murders. Florida, I believe Florida is still the capital of a murder rate, and yeah, so back then they didn't really have computers, and when they did get them, there were so many files that needed to be logged. I love when he said that he's not guilty. I'm Burt Reynolds. I love that. I mean, he looks like Burt Reynolds. Actually wouldn't be surprised if that is it was him. Oh yeah, that looks like a 90s courtroom. Yeah, just the aesthetic is important with shows like this, and I did a good job with the aesthetic. It, it brings me back a little bit to when I was younger. With me growing up, me being in the 90s. I know I wasn't too much exposed to too much in the world because I was growing up in it, but from what I do remember, the feel, the vibe, the energy, what I was exposed to, what we were all exposed to. Negative. I believe this is Doris Doreen. I was hoping to see more of Harry's wife in this show. I thought it was gonna really be a good family show of the Morgans, but it seems like again, just like with Tom Matthews that I talked about in the first episode, I think in the second episode, or I think it's good that the wife wasn't involved in this season. It does create that sense of brokenness, and having that sense of brokenness by default at the beginning of the show really does create room for growth instead of exploration. Some exploration can keep a story stagnant, where some exploration can actually help the story grow. And I think by having Harry's wife there, that would have kept the story more stagnant because it would limit how the characters would grow. It would limit, the whole grieving process and when does it happen, and just getting the character right and having all these internal conflicts between the characters that would overall possibly distract from what needs to be focused on is things like that. And just like with Dokes, you don't want another Dokes where Harry's wife is always suspicious of Dexter's character and is always like, oh, Dexter's weird, Dexter's weird, he's weird, and you don't want to constantly deal with that. Dexter eating again. You don't constantly want to do that. So her character not being around does make sense. And here's Batista. Oh, you don't drink? I'll drink for the both of us. I love how he has that weird head shake. Yeah, like Dexter has the nod. Batista has the shake, and how he kind of leans forward a little bit with his neck. He does that weird thing with his hand. The way he does that with that walk, and how he curves his wrists, like all the body movements. And look at that. As long as you have a heartbeat, you can dance. That is definitely something Batista would say. It's important when you're making characters like this. It is important to not only get the body right, the look right, the body language right, and even the talk, the octaves of the voice and all that, but it is very important to get the dialogue right. The dialogue is, in my opinion, the hardest thing to do when it comes to trying to recreate characters. The dialogue is the hardest part for me. One reason why I appreciate um and see, if I wasn't watching this as a fan, I would have been saying different things right now about this scene. But yeah, I know Batista's talking about the bus boy from Cuba, 1980. But yeah, one reason why I admire Masashi Kishimoto as an author. He's the author of Naruto, and every character that pops up in that show always has such a unique personality to them. And analyzing their dialogue of each character has a unique dialogue, and it really does stick out. So that's why I love Kishimoto as a writer. I admire him for how he does the dialogue. So these writers getting dialogue for Batista, Dexter and everyone else, I do applaud them. Look at Dexter lying. That one stuck with me because it was so sad. Yeah, see, that's the thing about Dexter Original Sin is that story that Batista just told about the busboy he was working for a place to live for him and his mom, and borrowed some money from the wrong guy, and he came in and let off a warning shot to the guy that he needs his money, and the warning shot ended up accidentally hitting his mom in the next room. Um, it's like stories. Oops, sorry about that. It's like stories like that. Stories like that really do bring a deeper meaning to what the show is about, which is about accidents happening and things not being so neat and tidy, but being very hectic and all over the place, and trying to figure out how to create order in such a world of disorder and chaos and seemingly random events. And that's one thing I love about this season is as you're watching this season, there's so much going on. You're getting to know the characters, you're getting to know the story, and every crime scene that we get is just a crime scene, okay, crime scene, okay. But no one's actually really caught except for the guy in the first episode. But then you see how he got away, and his story arc kind of drags on a little bit, kind of in the background, mentioned here and there. But overall, But overall, it's like wow, I lost my train of thought. The pawn shop. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Oof. Yep, just pass the earrings on to her. Time to kill her. Dexter, she's got your trophies. Time to kill her. There we go, Dexter. Now he's got his box of donuts. Look at that, all the cops are going for it. I love that how Dexter grabs one of the donuts. That says a lot too when it comes to the character, which is I don't think I've ever seen Dexter actually grab a donut. He opened it for all the everyone else, you know. Oh yes, I was saying so. Yeah, there's always so many random events going on in the show, and this show is slowly about when there is so much chaos and hectic stuff going on around. How do you find balance in that? And I believe that's one. I think that's one of the themes of this season. At least that's what I notice. But Original Sin, like I said, I mainly am looking at this as a fan, not as a person that I usually person I usually am when I record these. Mhm. Oh, she's trying to get inside to her kids real quick, and he's over here talking. She's like, "No, I don't want these wires to cross." Oh snap, Brian, little angel Dexter. Hello, Dexter. Oh, Dexter was always the pure child. Then there's the evil one, Brian. Oh, sorry. They're analyzing the finger that they just found. Oof. Oh, man. Grr, Dexter, kill him. Jimmy Powell. Who are you gonna go after, Dexter? I love that this show is not afraid to go places it needs to go. It's not afraid to go to dark places that it needs to go into. That's what I really appreciate about this show and Clyde Phillips and what he did in New Blood and in Original Sin is sometimes we need to see that stuff in storytelling. So it'd be like, oh, okay. Nicorette CQ. Or regular Nicorette, I guess. Hmm, there you go, Harry. Nicorette. actually feeling tired tonight. I don't know why. That is January 22nd. So it's actually interesting that this song is actually playing during the scene as Dexter's getting his monologue. Because I was actually going to say something about this. I was going to mention how season 6 kind of dropped the ball on Dexter's character, with really representing that he was an angel of death. And really talking about the idea that Dexter was an angel of death and what that meant. I felt like the 6th season of Dexter, they did their job, but I felt like they could have done more into going into the deeper philosophy on what an angel of death is, and what their role is. The fact that they're playing this song in the background, talking about Dexter's reconnecting with his angel of death. I thought that was pretty symbolic, and how that connects with bigger things. But anyway, all right, end credits. That felt short. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this commentary for episode 2, and I hope to get better at these. But yeah, thank you for your support.